The story unfolds in the midst of the long Cold War between America and the Soviet Union that began in 1945. In 1961, the Berlin Wall, a symbol of the Cold War and Germany's division, was suddenly built. The capitalist bloc centered on America confronted the socialist bloc centered on the Soviet Union. The situation spiraled into a state just seconds before the outbreak of a total nuclear war. In the midst of all this, the Cuban crisis of 1962. It is not recorded in history, but the one who stopped the Soviet Union's preparation for nuclear attack on Cuba was the existence of a single scientist. He is a man named Sokolov. He was originally a rocket development specialist active in the Soviet Union, but he used his knowledge from rocket development to create a new type of nuclear weapon. Dedicated to the task of developing a new type of nuclear weapon, he became terrified of its development and defected from the Soviet Union to America. In return for accepting withdrawal from Cuba, the Soviet Union demanded the return of Sokolov. The crisis of a total nuclear war was avoided thanks to the existence of a single scientist. When Sokolov returned to the Soviet Union, he was forced to secretly research new nuclear weapons, nuclear-armed tanks, and the Shagohod. 2 years later, in 1964, it was a covert special forces unit, FOX, formed by a man named John and Zero under CIA direction. A mission is proposed: infiltrate the Soviet Union and rescue Sokolov, all in the utmost secrecy. In order to complete the operation without leaving any trace of American infiltration, from footprints to sweat and excrement, nearly all weapons, equipment, and training items had to be procured on site. A complete stealth mission in which you infiltrate alone from the jungle in front of Sokolov's research facility and execute the mission. Even if you make a mistake and get caught by the enemy, no help will come. And this mission will become a virtual one for Fox to prove the effectiveness of the unit. At this time, the codename assigned to the infiltrating John is Naked Snake. Naked Snake. Backing him up on the radio are his comrades: Major Zero, the commanding officer of the Fox unit, paramedic, skilled in medical treatment, and another one, the boss, who suddenly disappeared from Snake's presence 5 years ago. Snake is surprised by the reunion over the radio. As a soldier, Snake is advised to prioritize his mission above all else. There are no enemies or allies. Obey any order. That's what soldiers are. Remain loyal, teaches the boss. With the support of these formidable heroes, thus began the Virtuous Mission. The first human breach of a road closure and clandestine action from the jungle. Snake safely reached Sokolov and attempted to abscond with him. However, his plan was subverted by a certain individual. That certain person is the boss. Until now, Ocelot was providing support through radio. He joined her special forces, the Cobra unit, and a soldier named Volgin, who was at the center of the Soviets' plans for world domination. Together they appeared in front of Snake. The boss said to the confused Snake, "I'm defecting to the Soviet Union." Sokolov is a tribute of defection. Snake was confused. Next, he was dropped from a bridge, and the boss departed with Sokolov, the Cobra unit, and Volgin's crew. The boss betrayed her country and defected to the Soviet Union. Sokolov was taken, and even his Shagohod development was stolen. Furthermore, when Volgin departed, he used the canister shell that the boss had given him as tribute and launched it at the secret design bureau where Sokolov was incarcerated. This is how the virtual mission carried out by Fox Force ended in failure. Snake was betrayed by the boss, whom he trusted, and also failed to recapture Sokolov. The mission, which culminated with even nuclear-armed tanks being stolen, ended in the worst possible outcome. However, things took a turn for the worse. While Volgin was firing a canister shell into Sokolov's laboratory, a Fox-Corps aircraft sent to rescue Snake was captured by the Soviets. For this reason, Khrushchev, the supreme Soviet authority, cast doubt on the US president, questioning if the nuclear weapons were in fact implanted by the US. In this regard, the CIA elucidates that the nuclear bomb was injected by the boss, who had defected to the Soviet Union and joined Borgin, and designs a plan to certify the US's innocence. The plan to eliminate the boss, and the one appointed for this mission, was Snake. America decided that Snake, being the last understudy of the boss, could defeat her. By eliminating the boss, and ideally Borgin, They attempted to prove that the US was not involved in the nuclear assault. This time, failure is not an option. If this operation fails, it will surely lead to massive casualties and the onset of a global nuclear war. Eliminating the boss and proving the US's innocence is the only available course. Thus, Snake once again set foot on Soviet soil to eliminate his cherished mentor, the boss. The operation, similar to the previous one, was led by Major Zero, the commander of Fox Force. Paramedics, experts in cutting-edge military technologies, SIGINT, and a Soviet insider, Eva, also participated in the mission. The mission involved rescuing Sokolov, destroying each armored tank known as Shagohod, and eliminating the boss. The operation was named after the boss's lead Cobra squad, Operation Snake Eater. Operation Snake Eater. Immediately after the start of the mission, the boss will appear in front of Snake, turn back, and the boss who tries to create an escape route. Why asylum? In response to Snake's question, she replies that she has given herself all the air. We also ask Snake a question. What are you going to do in the air? And is it a country or an individual or a mission or an idea? Telling him that there would come a time when he would have to make a choice, the boss left Snake. Snake, who is not believed to be in exile for 10 years, wants to know all the answers and carry out his mission to defeat his mentor, the boss, who has been with him for 10 years. Begin to move forward, even if you are confused. Stand up along the way. Survive the battle of the heroes and the men of the Cobra squad. He finally comes into contact with Sokolov, but he gets information that the fighter, Shagohod, is about to be infected. The battle with the members of the Cobra squad has a lot of direction that is typical of director Kojima, and especially the battle with the End does not know how to strategize. Panda wandered for hours crying. Snake has his right eye crushed, but he reaches the grand event Grozny. There he fought to the death with Borgin, and succeeded in repelling Borgin with his Shagohod. Finally, you'll face off against the boss, the biggest mission of all. That's where she tells Snake about her feelings. The boss's will to unite the world. Due to the government's system and flow, even small units that were once allies split up and become enemies. With the outbreak of the Cold War, countries that once cooperated with each other became enemies. In doing so, he ended the life of the Sorrow, who was a member of the unit for the sake of his mission. I am the daughter of a member of an organization known as the Wise Men who control the world through war. And later, even the child of Sorrow and Ocelot, born on the battlefield, was taken away by the Wise Men. The boss speaks to Snake in a gentle manner like a mother, not with the harsh tone of death she has used before. And in the end, you told me to take your life. The one who survives becomes the next boss, embarking on a never-ending battle. To Snake, who is unable to proceed, the boss says more. Fulfill your mission and serve each other's purpose. Snake challenged the boss in their final battle, taking her life with a single bullet from his beloved weapon, the Patriot. You took the life of the boss, who is dead, a parent, and an irreplaceable being for the sake of the mission and for America. Snake completes all missions and finally frees the boss from the snake that has been binding her life, bringing Operation Snake Eater to an end. After the incident is resolved, Snake becomes aware of the truth about this incident. It was spoken from Eva's mouth to Snake. The truth was only shared with her by the boss when she was spying on Borgin's side. The flow of these events was all a part of the American government's strategy. America's true goal was to take over the enormous secret wealth that Borgin had stashed away, the legacy of the wise. For that reason, the boss added a mission called Disguised Asylum. Get close to Borgin, take over the wise men's legacy, and return. However, the situation drastically changed when Borgin launched a nuclear missile. Suddenly, the operation had to be revised. The American government informed the Soviets about this. It was the boss who was the perpetrator this time. She betrayed America and acted alone. We had nothing to do with it. The boss was betrayed by America. To protect the country and prevent a nuclear war outbreak, the American government had to clear their name by killing the boss with their own hands. She had to be publicly killed, and it had to be recorded for a long time. She was unable to speak to her comrades. She was viewed as a shameless traitor by America, and as a strong woman who launched nuclear weapons in the Soviet Union. Her name was engraved in world history as a criminal. An official is not allowed to take their own life. They can only wait to be killed by a person they love. That was the last mission assigned to me by the boss. But the boss, believing in being loyal to herself, served America with patriotism till the end, dreaming of his own wish to unite the world. In the ending, Snake is depicted paying tribute to the boss's patriot at her grave and saluting with tears in his eyes. She is the true patriot. As the hero who shot the boss for betraying America, Snake is honored by the president at the end of Metal Gear Solid 3. There, the United States recognizes Snake as a true patriot and bestows upon him a new title surpassing the boss. However, after receiving this title, he voluntarily discards it and leaves the Fox Corps. Is it to fulfill the boss's will, or is it also for his own sake? Snake is about to start a new life. And it was actually the first time John was hailed a hero in history, being known by a name that no one could forget. In fact, this was the first. Big Boss.
In 1970, Fox was disbanded by Zero, the then General Commander of Fox. Snake participated in the creation of the organization that would inherit the boss's will, later becoming the predecessor to the Patriots. As the last disciple of the boss, Snake, who became the charismatic figure of the organization, conceivably founded the Special Force, Foxhound, in 1971. It was an elite squad consisting of highly talented members conducting mainly covert operations, also known as solo infiltration missions. As the new organization expanded, Zero, who started to become ensnared in his own private interests, began attracting many influential figures using the name of Snake, who was both the hero who saved America and the last disciple of the boss. Snake, disapproving of this move, saw his relationship with Zero become strained, with their gears no longer meshing as they used to. In the 4 years starting from 1972, the dreadful children's project, Las Enfantres Terebres, was initiated. Ostensibly, it was a plan to artificially create the strongest soldiers, but its true purpose was to anticipate the moment Snake, who had begun to think differently, would leave them, and to create another charismatic Snake. They succeeded in creating Solid and Liquid from Snake's somatic cells, with Eva, who loved him, as the surrogate mother. Snake, upon learning this, reacted violently and distanced himself from Zero and the others. And Snake began to distance himself from the organization as well. What am I existing for? What am I fighting for? The boss, who is dead, has chosen a life of dedication to America with the will to give it to himself. But the country has turned her into a traitor to America, who is a true patriot. I played with her life and her will for self-preservation. I lost a loved one, and I lost a friend I trusted. The heartbroken Snake sets off in search of a place for himself to fight. And you will meet new friends. "1974 years, Snake was off the coast of Colombia, South America. He chases the phantom of the boss, but with an indelible doubt in his heart, he seeks the ideal world for the soldier with Kazuhira Mira, whom he met on the battlefield. He led MSF, a mercenary organization called Army Without Borders. MSF, as the name suggests, is an army that fights of its own volition, not belonging to or being coerced by the state. However, contrary to this ideal, the reality is that they are called up to various conflicts and are disposable, occupying huts on the coast and living in a way that somehow survives the rain and wind. At that time, a KGB operative named Galibis and a girl named Pass visited. You are asked to kick out the CIA that has expanded into Costa Rica. A cassette tape that Galibis put out to Snake, who refuses. When it was played, there was a recording of the boss's voice, which Snake was supposed to have taken his life. The boss is alive. In order to pursue the truth, Snake accepted the request. At this time, with the support of Galibis, we've constructed a massive plant, a mother base within the deepest hinterlands, and we are utilizing it as an operational base. The project being advanced in Costa Rica was led by the CIA's worthless bald man, who was cold and hot, who initiated the Operation Snake Eater and centralized it. Utilizing the authority of Strangelove in AI engineering, the authority of the technician Huey Law in robotics, and advanced autopilot controlled by sophisticated AI, they were trying to develop a bipedal muzzle-mounted nuclear tank, the Peace Walker, and establish a reliable nuclear deterrent, a plan called the Peace Walker Project. At its core, for the good of all mankind, it was chosen to be a noble character who can make difficult decisions calmly and appropriately. The pseudo-personality AI, Mammalpod, which replicates the boss, was being developed. What was recorded on Galvez's cassette tape was spoken by an AI form based on Mammalpod, or the boss. In order to complete the nuclear deterrence, the bald, hot, cold man attempted the final nuclear launch. Facing the crisis of an impending nuclear war, Snake led the MSF activities and pushed it to the verge of destroying the Peace Walker. Just when it seemed that it was impossible to prevent the nuclear launch on time, the AI of the Peace Walker made the final decision and sank into the lake by its own will. That was the boss's noble spirit of self-sacrifice. And it also demonstrated that the decision she made on Russian soil 10 years ago was to abandon her guns and choose self-sacrifice for peace. Times have changed, and the boss, deemed unnecessary by the era, chose to abandon her guns. However, from Snake's point of view, it was nothing less than betrayal. The boss, who taught me everything about military sexuality, the boss who was hailed as the greatest soldier of all time, and the boss who handed over Tsar to Snake in the end, really gave up living as a soldier in the end. I felt it was a betrayal against everything soaked in the boss as an ideal soldier. No, maybe he was beginning to understand the boss's true intention. But he was too young to understand it. If we live in a world where there aren't fights, how should we live? You can't dispel fighting from a snake that lives as a soldier and only knows how to fight. Above all, you can't ask a snake, who can only express itself via fighting, to give up fighting. That's why Snake decided to choose a different path than the boss. He decided to cut off his feelings for the boss and continue to resist the era. Later, MSF was attacked by Cypher's spy, Pass, sent by the mysterious organization. Our self-developed nuclear-powered two-legged high school tank Metal Gear Zeke almost got stolen, but Carrick beat it back. As a result, MSF came to public attention. Can it be crushed by the era, or can it change the era itself? Snake makes a statement in front of soldiers from various nationalities and ideologies at the MSF base. From now on, I am the big boss. This is our hope. It's both heaven and hell, the outer heaven. From this moment, he refers to himself as Big Boss, not the boss. From now on, Big Boss starts marching towards the soldiers' utopia, the outer heaven. In 1975, MSF received a nuclear disarmament request from the IEEA as it was large enough to have nuclear weapons. At the same time, it was learned that a path to MSF information, known as PAZ, was being held in custody and interrogated by a desperate government intelligence agency, Cypher, at a US military base in Cuba. Big Boss entrusts his deputy commander, Kazuhira Miller, with handling the nuclear disarmament and goes to Paz's rescue alone. Big Boss rescued Paz and Chico, who was captured while trying to rescue Paz. Mother Base was attacked by XOF, an armed group disguised as the IAEA. Due to the C4 explosive planted in its leg, Mother Base collapsed, and Big Boss rescued Miller and escaped in a helicopter while his comrades were being killed. However, a bomb planted in Paz's body exploded, causing the helicopter to crash. At this point, Big Boss's whereabouts became unknown. The Army Without Borders was annihilated.
Mother Base, located in the hunted adopted country, was also destroyed. The utopia they were trying to create was about to be destroyed by the hand of one man. By the hand of Skullface, the fierce one who erased Sugao. 1984 years. Due to the effects of an explosion that occurred during the engine of a helicopter, Big Boss in a flooded state, Zero attempts to prevent him from dying, even though he is hostile. He was taken to a British military hospital in Cyprus, and then you wake up from 9 years of water rush. After that, from the Ocelot, a medic who rated Big Boss as the best in MSF during the explosion 9 years ago, he was injured while protecting Big Boss. It is also in a state of flooding, and Zero makes the most of his medic qualities. As an XOF countermeasure, he is the phantom of Big Boss. In other words, we are proceeding with the plan to make it into a shadow warrior. You will be informed that Ocelot agrees with that. Sensing the return of the Phantom and Big Boss, XOF attacked the Phantom with a motionless body and the boss with a bandage on his face. My name is Ishmael and I will lead you. I succeeded in escaping from the hospital, but I was pursued. The ambulance that was riding in it overturned. While the Phantom is unconscious, Big Boss disappears. After that, I asked Ocelot, who had joined me, about the Phantom. The departure of the real soldiers in another land, I was leaving to make an outer haven. With the powerful illusions of the Ocelot as a shadow warrior, Big Boss Yes and O, the medic, who has been implanted with all the memories of Big Boss, he thinks he's the Big Boss. A number of new organizations have been created around the world to replace MSF, lead the Diamond Dogs to thwart the XOF conspiracy, shoot down Skullface. Later in the 1980s, Big Boss met Frank Yeager and Naomi Hunter, protected them both, and together they moved to the United States. And in the early 1990s, he was again reinstated as Commander General of the Foxhounds. The members at the time were Big Boss, Deputy Commander Roy Campbell and others, the reunited survival instructor Kazuhira Miller, aka McDonnell Miller, pre-purified Zeman codenamed Grey Fox, and fearsome children born from the plan. Big Boss's son, another protagonist, Solid Snake. In 1995, he established Outer Heaven, an armed fortress state in South Africa. He entrusted his Phantom with the command of Outer Heaven. Furthermore, Solid Snake's infiltration mission, Operation Intrude N313, was changed, and at the same time, a tape recording the operation was sent to the Phantom and Solid Snake was sent to Outer Heaven for information distraction. At this time, Spanda expected the scene where Solid and Phantom meet to be the ending of Metal Gear Solid 5. Gunshots can be heard from afar. Solid is getting closer. A cassette tape from Big Boss is playing. You're not a shadow warrior or anything. You're the other me. We're the two of us Big Bosses. And I've been playing this game. You, the player who loves this game, are the Big Boss. However, the Phantom was defeated by Snake's unexpected performance, and Outer Heaven fell. After that, Big Boss left Foxhound and has been missing ever since. In 1999, Big Boss built a military fortress state in Zanzibar Land, a small Middle Eastern country, and established a self-sustaining military regime. In this fortress, Metal Gear D was developed and armed with nuclear weapons. In Zanzibar Land, orphans who were protected in the battlefield were also raised. Big Boss, known as the One-Eyed Uncle, was adored like a parent. He rescued a few skilled soldiers in Outer Heaven, reunited with them, and teamed up with Grey Fox. Furthermore, by abducting Dr. Keon Maroof, who developed the oil-producing microorganism Oilix, he was honored at the nuclear disposition places globally and renounced his weapons. Already in a dominant military and economic position in the world, he provoked an all-out war against the Patriots, who were trying to spread their norms in the world. Then, to stop this, a reorganized high-tech special forces unit was deployed. They faced the Foxhound, led by Roy Campbell, and Solid Snake, whom they sent. In the fights with Metal Gear Kaidi and deathmatch with Grey Fox in the minefield, he appeared before a wounded Solid and challenged him to a one-on-one fight, but was defeated.
Even if either side wins, our fight isn't over. The loser is freed from the battlefield, but the victor remains. And those who survive will fulfill their mission as warriors until death. These are the words Big Boss left to Solid. Yes, these are the same words he once spoke in his beloved poem, The Final Battle with the Boss. From poetry to disciples and parents to children, the cold history of war is passed on, even as time changes. The end of the unending fight has yet to come. Big Boss, defeated by Solid Snake in Zanzibar Land in 2014, was recovered by the will of Major Zero. Presumed dead, he was kept alive in a state of near death, artificially brain dead with nanomachines. Parts of Liquid and Solidus's bodies made up for his physical defects. Ocelot activates Guns of the Patriots, and the Patriots' AI is eliminated by Fox Alive, completed by Naomi and Sunny. Big Boss was freed from his vegetative state. Later, in front of Big Boss's grave, he appears before Solid Snake, who was trying to end his own life to prevent the spread of the mutant fox body in his body, and tells him everything. The goal of Big Boss was to maintain the world's balance by achieving military and economic superiority over the power of the Patriots, which had expanded globally, and to create Outer Heaven, a world where soldiers like him could live forever, outside of the heaven controlled by the Patriots. Leaning against the tombstone of his mentor, the Boss, he regretted his past actions trying to change the world for the sake of warriors like him, and realized that the Boss had been right all along. It's not about changing the world, it's about doing our best to keep the world as it is, respecting the will of others, believing in our own will, and realizing that was the Boss's true intention, and acknowledging her truth while saluting her grave. And I confess my respect for Solid Snake, who embodied that way of life till the end as a warrior and as a man. And I asked my beloved Hamaki to accompany the snake, and towards the snake's first and last act of filial piety, I took my last breath peacefully, saying that it was good. With the death of Big Boss, all the founders of the Patriots will leave this world, and their system will come to an end. Big Boss and his beloved the Boss. Ironically, it was their sons, Solid Snake and Ocelot, who ended the 50-year curse of the serpent that began with her death. What would Snake say when he meets the Boss again in the sky? Of course, I hope the first thing he'd say would be this phrase, "I kept you waiting." Thank you very much for watching until the end.